Welcome back to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs, and our conversation continues now with Ron Beaton, who, along with his brother Fred and his dad Bill, were the longtime owners of 870 KIEV, the talk of the town. It was also a country music station. They owned that station, that signal, from 1961 until 1998. Now, last time, Ron was explaining about how he sold 870 to Salem Media Group, as well as one hurdle that they had to go through before actually making the deal.
We made a deal, and I said the only thing is we want to hold the transmitter site. And he said, Ron, no deal. We'll go with you, but not if we have to lease from you. Mm. And I said, well, if we're going to do that, it's going to cost you a little bit more, quite a bit more. So he said, we had it all. We went over to the Hilton Hotel in Glendale. He and I sat down together and started talking, tried to see if we could work out a deal. And we got to that bind where he wanted the transmitter site free and clear. So I said, we can't do that. And here's what we'll do. We'll give you, you've got to add on from the price we've got, add on another chunk of money. And then he said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, let me. I had the deal. It was all done. Mm-hmm. But then the transmitter site became a problem. So he said, and I had a really good deal from one I'd already put together, but it had to include the transmitter site. I said, no, we can't do it. So you got to add on another substantial amount of money. And he said, I'm going to have to let you know. I'll give you an answer tomorrow. So I go back to the two partners, my brother and Jim Damon, my brother-in-law, mm-hmm. and they said, Ron, what did you, oh my gosh, you didn't make the deal. And I said, they wanted the transmitter site, and we didn't want to sell that. So I got a call in the morning from the Salem, and they said, come on down, let's write it up and give you a check. And bam, it was one of the easiest sales from, with that part, the blade closed. It was better than selling a house. It was just went so smooth. It was great.
Wow, that's great. And you have the sales background. What's your advice to those who'd like to get into sales as far as radio is concerned?
Well, you just got to be patient, and you got to learn. There is no. But once in a while, maybe not that often, but most of the time, you're going to get a no, but you got to be persistent and then stay out there, like many salesmen that I know did. And the no it can't knock you down. You've got to get used to it. And one of these days, and it does happen, they say yes. And the yeses don't come in as often as the no's, but all of a sudden you get a knack for it, and you start pulling the yeses out, and they come out really, really well. We did very well with it. But we got a lot of no's, and the salesmen that went to work for us, a lot of no's. You just got to be strong and hang in there. And it takes a while. But once you get in, and you know the people, and they know you, and they know you're going to get results on the station, then they come in. And the no's were left out, and the yeses were coming in way more than the no's.
And I remember for years, 870 KIEV that was the talk of the town, and it had that hometown feel to it. You had a lot of dedicated audience members, plus you had a lot of dedicated sponsors as well. I remember, hearing Dick Sinclair announcing for the Dresden. It just made me want to go down there and go back in time, if you will, or have that kind of like time machine experience.
You just talking about the Dresden room?
The Dresden room, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was Carl Ferraro and Sarah, and then what was it? Marty and Elaine. Did you ever go down there to see them?
I went there one time with a friend of mine when she was visiting out of town. We went there for drinks, and then afterwards we went down the street to Fred 62, which is a kind of a 50s diner-looking place nearby, and it was a fun time.
I'll be darned. That's great. Well, Freddie and Elaine, they did the music. He sounded like Frank Sinatra. It was Marty and Elaine. He sounded just like Frank Sinatra. And he would have a packed house. Every night he goes on, they go on, I think it was 7 o'clock, or maybe it was 8. Maybe it was 8. and the restaurant would be doing good. They had great food. It was really nice. We went there quite a bit. And then they would go on, and that place would just be absolutely packed. It would be very difficult to get in. And they went on up until, I think Marty died, well, about 5 years ago. But they did fantastic. They really did.
That's great.
And the restaurant is still open.
That's good to know also. And how many remote broadcasts did you do from there? Because, being a local station.
We didn't do the remotes from there. We just did the when Carl wanted to do something, he wanted to do a special, so he'd come on the air with like Paul Wallach. Remember with the Paul Wallach show?
That's right.
All the restaurants. We had restaurants. It was just Paul Wallach was doing the show in the afternoon for 2 hours talking about restaurants, and that went on forever. And then the personality, the owners of the companies would come in and do the interview with Paul Wallach.
And how oftentimes did the owners of these restaurants bring in free food to sample?
Oh boy, quite a bit. They used to do a cooking show with Piero. Piero had a show.
Mm-hmm, Chef Piero.
Yeah, he had a show on every Friday, cooking on the air. And they would get in there and cook on the air. We had a stove and the whole bit with burners and everything that you'd like to see, the pots and pans and all of that. And he'd have a special recipe every Friday. And then he'd have guest chefs come in, and they would do cooking on the air. So besides what they'd cook, the restaurant would bring in quite a bit of food. So everybody in the office would be very, very well taken care of the food.
Man, I wish they.
It was a fun time. It went on, and then during the week too, restaurants would come in and say, "We want, we're here, and we want to do an interview, and we brought you a few things for the people in the office to eat." And it would be gourmet and really, really something else. And that would happen quite often, at least once a week, but sometimes 3 times a week.
Wow. Is there any particular restaurants that stood out to you that was just your favorite? Oh, my goodness, this is so good. I got to keep on going back.
I mean, on the air ones?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Spoggles.
Oh.
And Wolfgang would come in himself and do a show with Paul Wallach. He would be on with Paul Wallach.
Wow.
And when Wolfgang come in, he would always bring something in, but we went to the restaurant many times, and it was just fantastic. His pizza. What was the pizza's name? Jewish pizza. It was fantastic. That was my favorite.
Wow. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it was really good. Really good.
I remember years ago, this was around the summer of 1979, my aunt was visiting from Florida, and she was married to a real-life Tony Soprano, and she was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And she said to the concierge, I want to go to a restaurant in town where celebrities hang out. And so he says, here's the number to Ma Maison. And at the time, Wolfgang Puck was the 40% owner and head chef there. And the concierge also said, by the way, this is an unlisted telephone number. But she called up, and we were able to make a reservation. We got there and saw a bunch of celebrities. I remember seeing David Sheehan there from Channel 2 News.
Oh, really?
And then my dad and I were in the men's room. He says, Josh, guess who's out there? I said, who? He said, Rod Stewart. I said, really? He's like, now don't get too excited. So we exit the restroom, and I'm 7 years old, and I just run over to the table. He's there with his then wife, Alana Hamilton. And I go, I know you. You're Rod Stewart. My dad has all your tapes. Yes, I am. What's your name? He's like, my name is Josh. And I noticed a cassette on the table. I was like, oh, there's one of your cassettes right there, or tapes. And he's like, yeah, it's broken. It got all wet. I said, yeah, last week my dad's tape got chewed up by the tape player.
Unbelievable.
But he was so nice. And, and then about 2 years later is when Wolfgang Puck left Ma Maison and started Spago.
Starting his own thing. That was on Sunset, wasn't the first one on Sunset?
Yeah, I think so. Uh-huh.
Up in the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Ma Maison is long gone. I think it closed down around 1985. But what made it interesting was that it was an old house that was converted. So the house itself was the bar. And then you dined outside. And outside you had these tin roofs that covered you from the elements, and then the ground was covered with AstroTurf, and then you had like almost patio-like furniture that was wrought iron for your tables. So it was a really unique type of thing. It wasn't like your typical fancy, rich restaurant, even though it was.
Yeah.
It just, broke all the rules pretty much. And plus, there are many kept changing, they said, as well.
Going back, just to interrupt, Tony DeMarco was the one that brought the music and everything in for the Spanish language. Rita and Tony DeMarco. Does that ring a bell to you at all?
No, it doesn't, but it's good to know their name.
I couldn't remember the name, but all of a sudden it just came to me. Rita and Tony DeMarco, very talented. They were both married. Been married, and he was the program director, and she did some singing, and brought a lot of different talent in.
Wow.
Sorry to go bit of evil. I just wanted to throw that in because I didn't have the name.
No, is there any... now, obviously, the talent that came in, was it anybody that was famous that crossed over? Because, you hear people like Julio Iglesias is somebody that you can think of that crossed over to English language. Was there anybody in particular that they brought in that became well-known beyond the Spanish market that you know of?
The only one with the Spanish would be... He managed Tony DeMarco he was managing he was one of the managers of the Dodgers for Spanish language.
Oh, okay. Jaime or Harleen.
Jaime, but I think that Jaime was brought in by Tony DeMarco, and then, as I said, he was a Latin speaking Spanish, and then my dad decided to make him, which is amazing, Mr. Baseball for the Dodgers, and he became the top guy, as you know, and he just retired.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that he would.
Hall of Fame.
I was kind of hoping he'd broadcast as many years as Vin Scully, but he's earned his retirement, so
he sure has. He sure has.
Good for you,
and
Jaime.
He's done very well with it.
Yeah, in fact, I remember in the early '80s when Fernando Valenzuela first started playing for the Dodgers, he knew very little English, and so Jaime was his translator for a couple of years until he became fluent.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Small world. Small world.
And now this year, Fernando's number is finally going to be retired, number 34, which is it's well deserved. And I know he's not in the Hall of Fame, but I don't care. It's like, the guy, Fernando Mania, 1980s. It just, I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed that the Dodgers broke their own rules when it came to that. So,
yeah, that's something unbelievable.
And in your 30-plus years of owning 870 KIEV, who are some other memorable guests you remember coming in?
Oh, gosh, we've had everybody. Barbara Bush, for one, the president's wife. She came in and did an interview with us. But we've had so many celebrities come in. All the mayors have come in. Yordi came in. I mean, all of the mayors came in and city councilmen. A lot of stars came in. A lot of movie stars came in. I remember the names I can't remember right off the top. Milton Berle was in quite a bit. He came in and did a show like once a month.
Wow!
But he was very, very entertaining. My wife's here and she's saying.
The one that was Shirley, what was her name? Shirley, married to the funny guy.
Shirley, Marty Ingalls.
Oh yeah, Marty Ingalls and Shirley Jones.
Marty Ingalls did a show too.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and his wife Shirley came in.
Mm-hmm. Shirley Jones from the Partridge Family.
That's it. Right.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, the names. We go on talking, the names will come to him, and I'll throw them out. But we had celebrities all the time. With Wolfgang Puck was in almost, let's say, at one time coming in like at least once a month.
Wow.
For Paul Wallach show.
And Milton Berle,
and then Elmer Dills was there as well. We had, when Paul went off, Elmer Dills came in and did the program radio with, restaurant, but there was a name for it. But he did an hour show Monday through Friday Well, talking about restaurants, all the best restaurants in town.
Mm-hmm.
And Elmer Dills, as you know, was on ABC TV as well.
Oh, yeah. And now his son Peter is
yes, right.
continuing his
Peter
dad's
was over
tradition.
as well. Yeah, Peter's doing well now.
He is, yeah. He's on AM 830 KLA, the Angel Station, and got to work with him a couple of years ago when he had a show on 870 for a little bit. And it was just a pleasure to work with. I never got to meet. I got to meet Elmer's, but I never got to work with Elmer.
Was just a fabulous guy, just really a fabulous guy.
Knew his stuff like you wouldn't believe. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was the top. I mean, he was the top as far as restaurateur. He was when he went in for an interview. I mean, he would tell it the way it was too. If he didn't like it, he would mention he didn't like it. But he was just something else. He was a very good restaurateur.
Oh,
did
yeah.
a great job.
And
but when he would go on the air and mention one of the restaurants, I mean, they'd line up to get into it.
That's right. If you had Elmer Dill's seal of approval, plus he had the under $10 guide that he sent viewers of ABC7. We actually sent in for it, and I've got somewhere in my house. I'm not sure where it is, but I've been meaning to give Peter a copy, but I just can't find it right now. I think maybe I did give Peter a copy, come to think of it, but I'll check and see. And then for a while, Elmer Dills and the late Fred Anderson did this kind of like food and travel around California show as well that was really entertaining.
I mean, we had a food and travel. Then we had a travel show with another guy that I can't think of his name.
Oh, yeah, Joseph Rosendo?
Joseph Rosendo, yes. And now he went on to television with He Left Us, but he did a show.
Travel Scope, I think it was.
Very good, Travel Scope.
Yeah.
He was very good. He had a lot of different guests come in, too. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Very, very, very well read.
Definitely. And by the way, how did you guys land George Putnam? Because this guy, by the time he came to 870, was in LA television for at least 25 years, having come from WOR in New York.
We did it. It was at the Arco Tower. What was the restaurant name? It was Francois Restaurant in the basement there. We had my dad and I and my brother sat down with him, and he showed a little bit of interest in going to work with us. And then after we talked with him, had a couple of drinks and what have you, and said that we'd set up a studio there for him at the Arco Plaza, which we did down in the basement. We built a studio, and then we did the broadcast from the studio with George and Superfan and
Chuck Wilder?
No, Paul Wallach, and the best dressed.
Mr. Blackwell.
Mr. Blackwell. Those are all broadcasting from the Arco Plaza, and George said, as long as I can do the show in front of people, I'll do it. So we signed him up, and he worked with us until almost the end, until we sold the station.
That's right, and he continued with Salem for the next 3 years before he was let go in 2001. And I loved talking to him. I mean, he was just... he
was a Superman.
He was.
A lot of energy.
Yeah, I've kind of got this theory that famous people named George are unique characters, and George definitely was a unique character. And just... I loved how he interviewed Mort Saul, which was quite often.
They were good buddies.
And I remember one time on the air, I mean, George was very conservative, and he said to Mort Saul during the end of one episode, he said, "Mort, even though you and I disagree politically, we've been good friends all these years." I'm like, this is so cool. It's man.
It was good. It was good. Mort came in quite a bit. They were good friends, so they had different, different thinking as far as politics, but they had some good conversations on the air, and they would agree and disagree. Mm-hmm. But it made for good listening.
Oh, it did, and it's interesting because I remember Carl Southcott. He's the son of Chuck Southcott,
right?
And Carl said to me about 25 years ago when I worked for the Music of Your Life big band pop stands format. he said, I get to hang out with Mort Saul today at Disneyland. I said, really? Oh, my goodness. And he says, but you know what? I don't know whether Mort Saul is conservative, liberal, or moderate because he makes fun of everybody so equally, I cannot tell.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Talented people.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, can we do this a little bit, another part of it later?
Yeah, definitely. This is the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs. We've been talking with Ron Beaton, and he was the longtime owner of 870 KIEV, the talk of the town. And Ron, we look forward to talking to you again soon.
I look forward to it as well, Josh. Thank you so much. Thanks for the memories. Going back, you've got some great people that you've got mentioning on your background, what you've been doing with your programming, and some of these people I haven't heard from for a long time, but a very interesting show.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Beaton, and we look forward to catching up again soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Josh.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
And this has been the Talking Archive. Josh Jacobs here, and we've been talking with Ron Beaton, Sr., the longtime owner, along with his father, Bill Beaton, and his brother, Fred Beaton, of AM 870 KIEV, the talk of the town, which really was a unique radio station. It had all these great personalities from George Putnam to Paul Wallach to Elmer Dills. It had a lot of people buying time as well. And hopefully looking forward again soon to talking with Mr. Beaton about more people who worked there, as well as some other ideas and some inspirations that he got to run a great radio station.